Hey everybody, we're doing some deep core mining in Elite Dangerous and we're starting right now. So if you've dabbled in mining a little bit and you haven't tried deep core mining, there's a couple things that you're going to want to make sure that you have before you head out. This video jumps right to the point where you've done a little mining and you're familiar with some of the basics. You have to have a refinery, you're going to need cargo space, you have to have seismic charges in order to do the deep core mining, and you're going to want to have prospector limpets and a detailed surface scanner. These things are kind of a non-negotiable type thing, and in this video I'm assuming that you are already kind of familiar with that stuff. Now there are a couple things that you can do that are somewhat optional, but they're a lot harder to do, so I don't recommend, especially if you're new at doing deep core mining, to go without these. One being the pulse wave scanner. It makes your life a lot easier when you're doing this, but some people have an eagle eye and they can pick out, the perfect asteroid and without having to have the pulse wave scanner. But if you're new to this, you're definitely going to want to have that. You can do it without collector limpets. Completely don't advise that because it'll waste an enormous amount of time. So you're going to want to have a lot of those. I would say that if you're able to afford it, have maybe a 64 slot cargo hold and have it full of limpets, because you're going to share between your collector and your prospector limpets. The first warning I can give to you if you're new to this, to not detonate your seismic charges really close to the asteroid. It will probably damage your ship. It'll knock your shields out, probably damage your hull. I've never been critically damaged, but I do have an example to show. So here I have an example. I have two examples actually of being way too close to the asteroid when the detonation takes place. The first one kind of knocks the shield out a little bit, but you can see it only does like the outer layer of the shield, and it recharges pretty quickly. In this segment, when I detonated, I'm like really close and it knocks out my shield completely, and I get like 18% damage to my hull. Had I been closer, I don't know how much that would have damaged my ship. As I'm approaching, I can see there's an asteroid coming up that has a bunch of little black lines that show up. And this is your first clue that you've come up to an asteroid that is going to have a deep core and that there's a lot of resources inside of it. So as I approach this thing, I send off my prospector limpet. What's important to note is when you have the asteroid fissures that are around the outside of the asteroid, there are different levels of strength. There's high, low, and medium. And you're going to be placing those seismic charges around the perimeter of the asteroid itself. And what those do, it's kind of like the Armageddon movie where you're sending that charge into the subsurface, and then it's going to like crack that apart like a nut. What ends up happening is if you look at the gauge at the upper right corner, it's telling you whether you're in the optimal band in blue. So if you're in the yellow or if you're in the red, you're going to end up having a poor payout for the resource that you're after. And what ends up happening is if you have too little or too much, you end up with only getting a portion of those resources. So let's say that, if you're a little under or a little over, you may get one, you may get three pieces of ore, whereas if you get the optimal range and it breaks apart in the way that it's supposed to, then you end up with, say, 12, 14, something like that. So I think I've seen as high as 16. And a safe distance is probably about 2 kilometers from the asteroid. You should be pretty safe there. I think in the video I'm about 2.5. You get too far away and then you have that much more distance to travel, and there is a little bit of an expiration time if you don't collect all the stuff quick enough. If you have collector limpets, you should be fine. It doesn't really affect you, but if you're trying to do it manually, and that's why I warned against it in the beginning of the video, that if you try to collect all that stuff, it'll probably expire before you collect it all. So collector limpets are very important. And when it comes to actually doing the deep core mining, you're going to want to do this in icy rings. There are a few resources on, like, say if you went to Reddit, you'd probably find quite a few hotspots. There's actually double and triple hotspots, where basically when you use that detailed surface scanner, I didn't really go over that in this video, but you normally see one hotspot. There are places in the galaxy where there are two and they're overlapping each other. And supposedly, I haven't seen this myself, but I've read that there might be triple ones out there. And what that means is your chance for finding an asteroid increases by 2 or 3 times. The likelihood that you'll come across them. So the double places, at least the last time I was playing this, I'm not sure if the algorithm has changed, so I can't speak to whether or not that is still the case. So do a little research, find out if the double hotspots are still paying out well. I think I heard maybe a month ago that the market had kind of changed and some of the painite was not paying nearly as well, but deep core mining can be very lucrative in game for currency. That's how I ended up buying my Python on PS4 after I started to kind of walk through this. One thing I want to point out with this is you have different strengths of fissures, and you're trying to make sure that you optimize how much detonation takes place inside the asteroid. When I first started doing the deep core mining, I had a lot of trouble with going over or being too far under, and I didn't exactly know what the problem was. To me, it was counterintuitive that high strength, if I put the charge in the high strength, that it was going to discharge harder. And it turned out that the asteroid was like holding together higher. So when you're playing around with this, you might want to do, say, two medium or two average and one high strength, or two low and one high strength. You'll find that there's kind of a happy medium that you can work out. And you can always cancel one of the charges or disarm it and then set a new one. You'll end up losing one charge, but not a big deal. You'll probably fill up your cargo hold before you run out of seismic charges. So thanks for watching this video. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share this video. It really helps out the channel. Talk to you soon.